The one thing that people are missing the most is sovereignty to take care of their own health. It's a human right. It's a basic human right, in my opinion. It's something that we should do as we can cook for ourselves or as we can clean the house. And we, I didn't learn that in school. Thankfully, in green school, I've actually taught a few classes on herbalism and to the students, and so it's one of the few places that actually takes that into consideration. But heal thyself is one of the premises of natural healing, of holistic healing. And the other premise of holistic healing is doctor as teacher.
Yeah.
So if it's all well and good to cure people, but the most, let's say, the highest calling of a physician, a doctor, a healer is actually to teach people to heal themselves. That's even more valuable than actually curing someone. So, because life is life.
Give a man a fish.
Give a man a fish, or teach him how to.
Teach him how to fish.
Yeah, yeah.
Welcome to Get Lost Education, where we are fortunate to have unscripted conversations with changemakers, green leaders, artists, activists and future thinkers who have created their own paths and affected positive change in their communities and our world. In my own journey, it was only by getting lost, by getting off the traditional well-trod path, that I was able to discover myself, learn about the world around me, my own passions and what impact I wanted to have on this world. And that's why I'm here at Green School Bali, a place where we are rethinking education. We're reimagining what a school is and empowering the next generation of changemakers. Today, we're extremely fortunate to meet someone who has been on a profound journey of his own, diving deep into a sea of knowledge and discovering the very meaning of what it means to live a holistic life and the idea of well-being and healing. Tjok Gde is a homeopath, health scientist, Ayurveda practitioner, and a believer in nature's remedies and healing power. He is the founder of the holistic health and Bali-based healing centre Tirta Usada. He is also the author of a book on natural medicine and very well known throughout Southeast Asia for a television show on the same subject. Now, Pak Tjok Gde is a very simple way of saying something very special in your name. Do you mind, and with respect and
Sure.
out of honour for the Balinese people, do you mind explaining, even telling us your first name and telling us a little bit about your family upbringing and where you're from?
Sure thing. It's an honor to be here. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Pak Sal, for having me. And have you got a few minutes for my full
Let's
name?
do your name
It's going to
first,
take a little while. So no, my full name is Tjok Gde Mahatma Putra Kerthyasa.
Okay. So
But
do you
on
want
my
to
New
explain?
South Wales driving license, it's Adam Kerthyasa.
Okay.
Because there's a story behind that.
Yeah, okay. Now, how do you get such a long name? Tell us about your family, Pak.
So I come from the Ubud royal family. So my father is the elder of that family at this time, and it's an old family whose roots go back. I can trace myself back 22 generations, all the way back to Java, actually, to the Majapahit Exodus, when the remaining Hindu kings who wanted to remain Hindu were asked to perform an exodus to Bali, and slowly, as Islam moved in to the Javanese culture, those who wanted to remain with the old ways came and settled in Bali. Yeah.
So we don't just have a future thinker and a person that's actively got lost through his life and found some amazing things. We have Balinese royalty. Swastiastu. I feel my Balinese is definitely not at the level where I would feel comfortable talking to you, and
anything is always appreciated. There's not many people in the world who can speak Balinese, Pak Sal.
no, this is you're a Balinese royalty. Great, tick one. Two, you're a Green School parent, so this is not the first time you've been to Green School.
It is certainly not.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, my eldest son Adi he's graduate of the class of 2020. So
last year.
Just
A COVID graduate.
Exactly. You know, that may go down in history. Who knows?
It has gone down in history, I think. Yeah. Tell us about, can you remember the first time you were at Green School? Because it's a pretty special place.
I can. I got lost.
Getting lost getting here?
Very lost trying to find Green School. So that fits with the theme for today. But I remember I was driving all around Sibang, stopping to ask people, and it was, I think it was my son's, no, it was Green Camp actually. He came to Green Camp before he came to Green School. And I remember really, after that experience, walking in, it's a powerful place.
Yeah. What were your first impressions? Yeah.
First impressions were nature, and an energy, a certain energy, and freedom, and happy kids, and lots of trees, and open classrooms, and I thought he'll come here.
Yeah.
So it took a bit of convincing, but he started here in middle school. He started middle school here and went all the way through to the end.
With me.
That's correct.
As a maths teacher.
Yes.
And we're in the yoga studio now. Before we started filming, we had a look down at this raging river.
Yeah.
And you can actually see a little bit of a bridge.
I can see it. I can see a lot of it.
There is a little bit of that bridge there. And it's one of my favourite stories of this place and of Green School. In my first year, I was told by John Hardy to build a bridge. And I thought he was joking until some engineers and a builder turned up to my maths class about 2 weeks later and said, let's get started. Yeah. Of course, John Hardy being Pak Tjok Gde, we built a bridge. In lots of schools you would plan a bridge, draw a bridge, maybe make a scaled model.
Sure.
And at Green School Bali, we build real bridges. And that's an analogy in itself.
Yeah.
A special place.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that bridge. That looks like it. That wasn't sort of play building bridges. That was a real.
No.
That was a real bridge over a big river.
No, we really got lost too in making it. We weight tested it and it failed the first test.
Right.
And we realised that we'd put our A-frame rods in upside down. And had to pull them out and do it again. And by that stage, I think RD and a few other students were the only ones that stayed with me on the project.
Right.
Started again on the A-frame. The next time we weight tested it, we were going down there to do it, and John Hardy was with a tour with about 20 people in the middle of the bridge swinging it from side to side. So we had weight tested it in real life.
Right.
The Green School way. The Green School way. Now tell me, you've got a New South Wales driver's license, yeah? And so I can sense a little bit of Australian in an accent as well. Tell me about your childhood.
Yeah, so my father's from Ubud, and my mother's actually from Sydney. Well, she was born in Singapore technically, but and she's of British Australian extraction, but grew up in Sydney. So when I was about, how old would I have been? About 3, we moved to Sydney as a family. So
with
I was
your father?
born in Bali. Yeah.
So,
the whole family.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
So my father actually went to art school. Yeah, okay. He went to art school and is an artist among other things. But I spent all of my school years and university in Sydney, basically.
Okay, and what about your childhood? What can you remember? Something special, something that you loved about your childhood?
Lots of things. We always came back to Bali almost every year for Christmas and New Year's. We'd be here, and that contrast between Sydney and Bali was incredible. I mean, going back, I have memories of, we lived in the lower North Shore, close to the harbour, so lots of happy memories about Sydney Harbour. It was a beautiful place. Sydney in the 80s was a very different place, and all the parks, Bull's Head, reserves, and just running wild in the wilderness, around Sydney, and then this massive contrast in coming to Bali.
This other home you had.
Yeah.
Did you always feel connected to Bali, even growing up in Australia, or is it a holiday place?
To be honest with you, I didn't. To be honest, I feel like I want to say I did, but actually, my father wanted to move back here several times. You can imagine how different irreverent Australia was
Yeah.
to a Balinese prince. And I'm a half caste prince. I'm all right. He's pure blood,
full
And
royalty,
so
settling
it
in
wasn't,
to North Shore, Sydney.
and he was he was working in cafes. He was washing dishes. He was a gardener.
Wow.
He did everything from. He also danced. He was a Balinese dancer as well. I remember many fond memories of the Australian Museum. He used to work there as well.
Oh, wow.
So there was always this sort of mishmash of cultures, and the Balinese and generally the Indonesian community was pretty strong in Sydney at that time. So we'd have these sort of meetups in Centennial Park and picnics and babi guling at the house. And
I forgot, what age did you move to Bali?
Did I move to
Sydney?
Sydney? About 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was about 3. Yeah.
So as a 3-year-old, you probably don't have many memories really of Bali before when you moved to Sydney.
No, I have
And then-
fleeting memories.
And you
Very
did
vague.
all of your schooling in Australia?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that. What school did you go to? And
Most definitely. I went to North Sydney Demonstration School.
and peace out to North Sydney
That's right.
Demonstration
North
School
Sydney,
out there.
damn.
All you guys watching in.
Damn, that's right.
Yeah.
And then I went to Chatswood High.
Chatswood High.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, rough
Somehow
and
I've
ready.
heard of Chatswood High. Rough and ready?
Yeah.
What was school
It was
like?
cool. School was great.
Yeah.
School was fantastic. I went through the public schooling system in Australia. There wasn't any green school in Bali at the time. We
So you
weren't
weren't
even
missing
allowed
much?
to go to at that time in Indonesia, we as Indonesian citizens were not allowed to go to international schools. Through we had to go through the
Public system.
the machine, the system in Indonesia.
Oh,
at
tell
that
us about
time.
the machine. What did the
It was-
machine
it
give
was-
you?
That was the time of Suharto. It was, well, I don't know. I don't really know. I was definitely too young to be a political analyst at the time, but I do remember I have traumatic memories of going through immigration. That wasn't fun. Yeah, my mum was always a bit anxious about that, and they'd always try to make a little problem.
Did you like
Yeah.
school?
I loved school.
Did
Yeah.
it prepare you for what you're doing now?
In
your
a
life
way.
now? Yeah.
In a way, what I do now.
Well,
Look.
which we will get into.
Yeah, I mean, for me, school was what made it with the teachers and the friends. I think in many public schooling systems, you can go either way for you. And I was very blessed. I was very lucky to have some incredible teachers. And one, Mr. Gavin Staines, was my music teacher. And he ended up building a band that I was part of. It was a big band. I played the saxophone, and my first thing was going to the Conservatorium of Music after school, so I really was serious about it. But we ended up playing 2 of the world's top jazz festivals when I was 17 years old.
Oh, wow.
Montreux and North Sea Jazz Festival. So
Yeah.
I can't say that was a normal schooling experience either. It
Were there
was
things
quite
in your schooling experience that you'd change? That you would like to have changed? Or
Goodness me, yeah.
where do we start?
Where do we start? Yeah.
Maybe even just
The
like
HSC.
comparing, like Ade. Ade's just finished. He's graduated
Yeah.
from a
Yeah.
crazy international school in the jungle
Yeah.
that's reinventing education.
Yeah.
And you've been able to be a part of that journey.
Yeah.
Maybe even just a comparison. Can you remember when you graduated from grade 12? It would have all been exams.
Yes.
They would have filed you out with a number,
That's correct.
and that number would have allowed you to go to a next stage somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. That
Yeah.
would have branded me as to which box I can go into. Yeah.
I don't think they had a box for you. Did they have a box for you?
Well, that's the reason it's difficult for me to answer this question is because I again was very fortunate in this way because a lecturer from the Queensland Conservatorium had actually drafted me to be accepted into the conservatorium before I'd done my HSC, so I didn't really stress out that much about the exams. So that was it was an unusual thing to happen, but there weren't many baritone sax players at the time, and they were building a new band there, so I was very lucky that I didn't have that pressure. And I don't know, I guess back then we didn't have the same pressure as the kids have these days.
It's a different
we
world.
got out pretty lucky. I think with the other, when I see how alternative schooling systems are moving as in comparison to, either, the highly academic driven schooling systems. I think those kids are under a lot more stress than I was. Yeah. But the alternative system is allowing kids to think for themselves. I think that would be, in a nutshell, one thing I would have preferred, I guess I still came out of a system, and that way to think outside the box wasn't so ingrained in me.
Well, even just when you think of the purpose of education, the world has changed so much and is still changing. Then that purpose keeps changing as well, and I think we've probably fallen behind in the reality of how schools deliver on that purpose and that promise to our 5 to 18-year-olds, which is a really important promise that we make as adults in the world, as parents and as teachers and educators. But even just the concept that maybe I missed, or I was in that middle grey area, or I think I just got lost anyway, where you had to go through school and by the end of school have a real idea of that job you were going to do for 40 years. That whole concept doesn't exist anymore. And so it can be exciting, but we need to know it's also can be daunting as well. That the concept of a 7-year career and the constant upskilling and the concept of lifelong learning is something that we don't just talk about anymore, and we don't just read about it. It needs to be a part of how we raise our kids and how we educate our future generations. Daunting, exciting, So in the intro, we've got a Balinese royalty saxophone player, half Australian, half Balinese, but I introduced you as someone that's very holistic in what you do, and your life's work is about treating people holistically. I know this from first-hand personal, hand on microphone. I know this personal. I've had a session with you before. Tell us about the moment that you decided to make this your mission.
All right, that's interesting. So like you just said, I came out of high school and I thought I wanted to be a jazz musician. And a year into that training, I realized I didn't, as a profession. So I went into the family business, which is hotels, and I studied hotel management. Came out of that, got married, had Adi, my first son, and worked in the family business, and that was all well and good. And then I started to get quite interested in, hotel management's it can be quite an unhealthy industry, as you can imagine. Alcohol,
especially the boom of Bali as well.
Yeah. Hedonism, that kind of thing, and I think I sort of overdid it, and I started to look for natural ways to look after my health. I went to a naturopath who's still practicing here, Frederick Nolt, and I started reading up on Ayurveda, started growing organic food for the hotel, started putting a tea list together, and then I decided to study nutrition by correspondence, where they still sent you big packets of paper and books, and that was with a college in Sydney. And then there's a funny story. It's a bit corny, but it's
we love funny stories.
I think I should tell it. But I went to watch Harry Potter, the first Harry Potter at the movies, and I watched that movie, and something clicked, and I was like, I've got to go back to school. I'm going to, and what I do now is a little bit Harry Potterish. I have the alchemical laboratory.
We got the cloak, wands lying around somewhere, props. Anyone?
I should put my glasses on, but I came out of that movie and I was like, that's it. I'm going to go back and study naturopathy. So I applied to the Australasian College of Natural Therapies and the University of New England, and I got accepted. And then I hauled the family over back to Sydney and became a student again.
Wow. Okay.
And that was in about 2002, and I stayed there for a good 7 years. Yeah. Studied, graduated, practiced there for 3 years as a homeopath in a homeopathic practice, and then came back to Bali on holidays, and I was busier treating patients on holidays than I was in my clinic in Sydney.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So I thought, all right, that's
That's
a
it.
message. I'm coming back home. So
Now, Ubud
2000
especially is open, very open to holistic living.
Yeah.
Tell us you talk about holistic living.
Yes. Yes.
Or holistic health.
Yes.
Could you explain to me a little bit more about that? Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. It's a big term. It's a big concept, and I think it gets used in many different contexts, and some of which I feel may not necessarily be accurate.
Okay.
But the basic tenet of it is macrocosm, microcosm. Is actually a universal concept that goes through every natural therapy in general, as well as many of the old philosophies, particularly Balinese philosophy, which recognizes a human being, as a manifestation of the cosmos, the macrocosmos, a microcosmic manifestation of the macrocosmos. So, as they say in alchemy, as is above, so is below. It's the fact that we are part of a whole.
Can you say that again? As is above,
as above, so below.
so below.
Or as is above, so is
yeah.
below.
Yeah, beautiful.
And so recognizing that we are an integral part of the whole, and basically maintaining balance, which then automatically transfers to maintaining health as as a way of life. So where we don't separate ourselves from what's going on around us, and we also don't compartmentalize and separate the different parts of the body, the soul, the spirit, the ego, the subconscious, and all of those wonderful things that make us up. Yeah.
It sounds like you're connecting the things that seem to be originally connected.
Yes.
But we've designed either philosophies on life or ways of living that have created these barriers and have stopped the connections.
Yeah.
And we do this, we think about this every day as the way we build a learning program, or the way we design a curriculum as well, that we don't, like you talked about before with your first impressions about Green School. It was open and there was so much nature, and by doing that, it's not just because we think it looks good. It's because we believe that learning and a human being is part of nature and connected to the macro, and is not just a separate entity. We're not cementing over and living external to these things. We want them to be part of our life.
Yeah, most definitely.
Why did you choose this form of medicine rather than a more traditional? Because
this is interesting. I mean, basically because my first experience of my mother had taken me, I think we had a homeopathic cough syrup at home, and we used to go to the chiropractor sometimes, but I was basically brought up in a more of a we had our family doctor, and that was that. But my dear mother took me one day when I was in Bali to meet a man who taught something called Buteyko breathing. You may have heard of, you may not have heard of.
What's the name of it again?
Buteyko breathing. It's named after a Russian professor, actually. And I was a chronic asthmatic at the time. And after just a month working with this man, my asthma was pretty much gone. And so that would have been my first experience of the body healing itself. And it was only done with a breathing method, a method that I've since actually formally trained in as well, because it's just so simple and it's so effective. But realizing that first time, hey, I'm actually healing myself, and I'm not even using herbs. I'm not using anything. I'm just changing how I breathe. And hey, you know what? Breathing's the most important thing we do in life, isn't it? And no one ever taught me that at school. Yeah. And
we do it in our sleep.
We do it in our sleep. We do it, it never stops until we take our last breath. But I think I got hooked on feeling good.
Let's all get hooked on feeling good.
Just, I realized what it was. I had these moments of feeling vital, and I was doing yoga, and I was eating organic where I could, and all of that. And I was like, you know what, I really like this. And that's what got me into the nutrition side of things. And I love cooking. I've always liked mixing things, and so then I was naturally attracted to naturopathy. At the time, I didn't even know what homeopathy was. I had no idea what it was. And what got me really into homeopathy was I had Adi at that time, and he was only a few months old when we moved to Australia, and he got sick. He got really sick, actually. He had a really bad case of bronchitis, and even though I was studying natural medicine, I went to the family doctor, and
Get on the antibiotics.
and that was advised. And I thought, you know what? He's never had antibiotics in his life. I'm going to try and not do this. So I asked my lecturer, and I was really into herbs. I was like, what herbs can I give? And they, oh no, the kid's too young. You can't give herbs, you can't give vitamins. I said, why don't you go to a homeopath? And I said, what's that? And it was funny at the time. I was still very, reflecting on this. I was like very traditional minded. I was like, all right, I'll go to a homeopath, but they have to be a medical doctor homeopath. So I went and looked for one. Didn't work. Then I went back and I asked my other lecturer, and she said, no, go to this guy. His name's Keith Avedizian. Give him credit for changing my life.
Yes, please. Can we all?
Yeah. Keith Avedizian, if you're out there.
Thank you. Changing your life.
He's in Sydney, and he didn't talk much. He took the case. He gave me some pills. No label, nothing on the bottle. He said, give this every 3 hours, and if it's not better, come back in a few days. Wasn't better, came back in a few days. He said, all right, give this one. If it's not better tomorrow, then I'll leave something in the post box and just come pick it up. I was like, all right. And it was, it was one of those moments where your faith is pushed to the limit, and it didn't really work. And I was like, all right, that's it. He's got one chance. This guy's one chance, and after that, if this doesn't work, then homeopathy is rubbish. So I go back. I pick the thing up at 7 o'clock at night from his post box out the front, and I give Adi a dose of this remedy, which was a remedy I commonly prescribe called Hepasolf. And he got a fever again. He got a fever, and he coughed, he vomited. Then he went to sleep, and he woke up the next morning as if he had never been sick before. And I was like, all right, there's something in this.
Something in this.
So I actually converted to exclusively. I'd almost finished naturopathy, but I just specialised in homeopathy from then on. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing?
Well,
you want a coconut break?
I might have a.
Let's do a cheers.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
A little bit of natural medicine here. I remember once in India, I was there for 6 months at one time.
Yeah.
One of my trips there.
Yeah.
And this is all I drank,
Yes.
actually.
Yes.
The beer there is, no offence, India, but the beer is very ordinary. The water is dodgy at the best of times,
Yes.
even in a bottle.
Yeah.
And I literally did just live
Survive
entirely.
on it.
This
Yeah.
was my entire fluid intake.
Yeah.
This and some fruit juice.
Yeah, and you don't need much else. I mean, it's plasma.
Mm.
This is basically plasma. They were doing transfusions in the Vietnam War with coconuts.
Exactly. Exactly. You're just feeding in a like cell,
Yeah.
a whole heap of like cells.
Yeah.
Your body's just taking that stuff in.
We're
I've got
very
a-
lucky to have these on.
I want to ask a challenging question. Is that all right?
Yeah, go for it.
Some people have different views about natural medicine, homeopathy, and that thing. What do you think? What do you think people are getting wrong about it? Because it doesn't seem to be very harmful to me if you compared it to some of the other medicines that are prescribed on a day-to-day basis and filling the pillboxes of people young and old around the world.
Yeah.
Considering where medicine has come from, in a very short period of time, it's become very non-traditional, and the new traditional with medicine is chemical.
That's right.
And we're not prescribing breathing therapies, we're not prescribing coconut water, we're not prescribing sunlight and healthy air. So what do you think people are getting wrong when they are confused or have sort of misleading ideas about natural medicine?
Well, reality is shaped by our perception, and the general narrative, the general paradigm is mechanistic, materialistic reductionism. That's the dominant scientific paradigm, basically, at the moment. And you couple that with the media, and you couple that also with a more materialistic way of viewing life that is, based on numbers and measurement and
cost.
Yeah.
If it costs a lot of money, it's probably good.
Exactly. And you have then basically a general perception of how reality should be. Now, that's not a reality for everybody. And it certainly was never a reality, an exclusive reality for me. I had that, I call it a blessing and a curse of growing up with these two extreme worlds. I mean, even though Australia's just, Sydney's a 6-hour flight from Bali, they are two realms operating in very different paradigms. And so in my Balinese upbringing, I was from the very beginning introduced to the non-material, and the more you look at things through that material lens, the more you sort of divorce yourself from the connection to the other things that make us up, our emotions, our mind, our spirit, our soul, those things. And they do not fall under the jurisdiction of the mechanistic reductionist paradigm. So, and the irony is, Descartes.
I love ironies. Come on, give us an irony.
Well,
the irony of the day.
Irony.
Here it is, everyone.
Descartes, who is sort of credited with this whole paradigm, the irony is that he got it in a dream. So he fell asleep one day after I think he was a mercenary or a soldier, a paid soldier, and he fell asleep, and an angel came to him in his dream and said that nature, something along the lines of nature shall be conquered through number and measure. And then we have the birth of this paradigm, but it came to him through an angel in a dream.
It's like a nightmare though, isn't it? Or did they call it a dream or a nightmare?
Yeah.
Nature shall be conquered.
Yes.
Yeah, well, he got that wrong, didn't he?
Well, that's the thing, what is it? What is it that makes a plant grow? Is it just the carbohydrates? Is it is it just photosynthesis? Or is there something else? And, throughout history, whenever we've always had these alternative paradigms, and to be quite honest with you, they've never been liked all that much. But,
right. Do you feel unliked? I like you.
Thank you. No, I'm fine in the green school. It's all good. We're in a haven here, aren't we?
Yeah.
But in homeopathy in particular is one of the most sort of disliked natural therapies out there. And the reason for that, one of the reasons, is because it's the second biggest form of medicine practiced on the planet.
Right.
So it represents both a threat and a conundrum to the materialistic, mechanistic mindset. Yeah.
Wow. Now, in your, what did you say? It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
I think you'd have some interesting observations about, possibly interesting observations about things that people might be missing from their life. You must talk to people, and I know from our session or sessions a few years ago, I actually felt that it was less a medical examination and discussion, but a holistic discussion.
Yeah.
I remember actually leaving the first session I had with you, and felt like I'd had counselling rather than a chat with a medical professional. And when I reflected on that, I thought, wow, isn't that actually what a doctor or a person who's trying to help me heal should be doing? Holistic, and talking to me about my whole life, and having almost a holistic counselling session. So what do you think? Do you find people are missing certain things in their life that you're able to help, and able to help with the healing?
Yeah, most definitely. I think the one thing that people are missing the most is sovereignty to take care of their own health.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a human right. It's a basic human right, in my opinion. It's something that we should do as we can cook for ourselves or as we can clean the house, and we, I didn't learn that in school. Thankfully, in green school, I've actually taught a few classes on herbalism and to the students, and so it's one of the few places that actually takes that into consideration. But heal thyself is one of the premises of natural healing, of holistic healing, and the other premise of holistic healing is doctor as teacher.
Yeah.
So if it's all well and good to cure people, but the most, let's say, the highest calling of a physician, a doctor, a healer is actually to teach people to heal themselves. That's even more valuable than actually curing someone. So because life is life.
Give a man a fish.
Give a man a fish, or teach him how to.
Or teach him how to fish.
Yeah. That's the thing. So for me, it's about education. It's about also having that curiosity and care. And I think I have a feeling that impulse is getting bigger and bigger. Personally, the things that reward me the most at the moment are teaching. I have my clinic, which is still very busy, especially during these times. But I always make sure that I take time at least once a month, or sometimes a few times a month, to teach. Yeah. And it's very rewarding when I can hear that one of my participants has cured their kid's cough on their own. It's like, that's worth 10 cured patients to me. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, Pak, have you got any advice or message that just that you'd like to shout out to whoever's watching?
Yeah. Look, from my experience, raising my children, and I've got 5 of them, so I've had lots of trial and error, let's say. We've been able to maintain a healthy family mostly through our own, our own sovereign activities. And I want to just let everyone know that there is a world out there of possibilities, of resources, and of teachings and ideas that are in alignment with nature. And when you live within that alignment, generally you're going to bring up a healthy family. And I think what we're going through at the moment in the world is really, it's a symptom. It's a symptom of I think a society or an economy or whatever you want to call it, that has gone so far away from nature that we've had to get pulled right back and put in line. And it's unfortunate that the natural therapies have always been under such, let's say, it depends on the country. I mean, in India they're celebrated.
Yes.
In Indonesia they're celebrated. In China they're celebrated.
There's just half of the planet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
So let's not generalize.
We're doing all right. But to anyone anywhere else, I would say definitely open that box. Look for those resources and look for a way, because in the end, I think, what is more valuable than our health?
Yeah.
There's obviously our family is very important, but we need to be in good shape to take care of that family. And we've spent so much time trying to amass things, that and I see it in a lot of my patients, that we forget about the most important thing that we have, and the thing that actually we have the choice to destroy or maintain, which is our own health. And generally, when we're living in that vein, our choices will then impact the planet generally in a more positive way. So it comes back to the way of holistic thinking, which is we are part of the whole. And I would just like to reiterate
that's awesome. So how do people watching now, listening to this, how can they connect with you? How can they either learn more from you or have a session? Is there a website or something that we can direct people to?
Yeah, definitely. So I have a practice that I run out of Ubud, and it's by no means limited only to live. Face-to-face
Yes, yeah.
consults. I do a lot of online consults and.
There was a good joke
Skype,
there.
yeah.
Just doing live, people.
Yeah, live.
How
So
to-
my website
Yeah.
is tirtausada.com.
Are we going to put that
bit of a
here?
tricky name. We'll put that.
We're going to put this here.
Yeah. Tirta Usada, and that means Tirta means water.
Water. There it is.
Yeah. Water in a spiritual context, and Usada means healing. So it's the healing waters, or the water of healing. And that's inspired by actually my home, which where we are keepers of a holy spring, and actually I use the water from that spring to make my medicines. So so that's my website. Instagram's the same.
Yeah.
Facebook's the same.
Tirta Usada. Yeah. And that's really cool. And what about a little message to the youth?
Yeah.
And not just your children. That's,
Yeah.
someone that's really special, and it's been amazing hanging out with you.
Yeah.
Someone that's got lost off a traditional path.
Yeah.
Been raised in two different worlds, lived in two different worlds, given so much from who you are. It could have been. I mean, the world always needs jazz musicians, so that was a little bit of a loss. But I think the world's a better place because you're doing what you're doing. So, what about the youth of today?
Yeah, to the youth. Well, I have to say, you guys are. I had the way when I look back at life, we had it easier than these guys, and there's a little analogy I sometimes give when I'm teaching, and it's something based on the letter C. Yeah, and it's about we need to start with courage, be courageous, and then we move to commitment, and then once we move on to commitment, then we have consciousness, and so. But we need to start things with courage, and I think with the world that we have, that we're in now, it's full of challenges at the moment, especially for the young. And I think we all need to pluck up, have courage, and dare to know, and know thyself, which is sort of an old adage that I always carry with me. Yeah, and love the world, love nature.
Yeah.
Don't embrace it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, we could all. I don't think that's just for the youth. Actually, we might have to film that question again. We've got a question really just for the kids, because I'm taking that advice myself. Courage. Yeah. Hey, Pak Tjok, people can learn more about you on your website.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tirta Usada.
Yes.
Thank you from the school, and thank you from me personally. It's been amazing connecting with you and learning about you. Thank you for being a part of Get Lost Education. Yeah.
Thank you. It's been an honour and a privilege to be here with you, Pak Sal.
Thank you. Mato suksuma.
Yeah, suksuma moali.
Moali. Yeah. Before signing off on this episode of Get Lost Education, I have 3 challenges, and they're from Pak Tjok Gde. I challenge you to be courageous in this challenging world. I challenge you to find commitment in your life, define the values that you value and commit yourself to them. And I challenge you to reconnect with your own consciousness, because I know that's a way that we can reconnect with our natural world. Thanks very much for being with me. Try it someday. Getting lost can be fun.